Hey friends, what's up? It's Eve, and today I am joined by my lovely friend,
Louisa. Hey.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. So we're in a bit of a different setup than I'm normally used to. Normally we're in my lab, but today we're sort of in a baking lab. I personally love baking. How about you?
Me too. I love baking. It's so much fun to just play with all the ingredients, play with your hands a little bit. You can decorate things. I love it.
Yeah, and then you get the best payoff ever, which is something delicious and yummy.
Yes.
If you get all your portions right. But today we're gonna be making one of my favorite recipes of all time, pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. Are you a fan of pumpkin?
Nice. I love pumpkin, yes.
So we're gonna go ahead and just get started with our recipe. And the first thing we're gonna need to do is cream together some butter and sugar. So we're gonna do that right here.
Creamy.
Yeah, so if you wanna go ahead and got our butter right here, and we also have our two different kinds of sugars. So the first sugar that we have is 1 cup of granulated sugar, kind of pre-measured already. So if you wanna go ahead and just
the whole thing?
pour that in there.
Sweet.
Awesome, cool. And then we also have a 1/2 cup of brown sugar as well. So we'll go ahead and put that in there.
So all of the sugar goes in?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and cream the butter with the sugars. But if you want to go ahead and add that in there.
Sweet, I'll save our little egg.
Yeah, let's keep that egg to the side.
Nice and safe.
All right.
That brown sugar smells so good.
Yes, it's very fragrant. I think we're getting there. I think this looks good enough that we can probably move on to the next step. Okay, so our next step is going to be adding 1 cup of our pumpkin puree. I got a handy little spoon here to get that out. We have a 1/2 cup here, so we're gonna do 2 of these.
Beauteous. Sorry, I feel like this is.
No worries. What fun is baking if you don't get messy?
That's so true. Okay, is that good for?
That's perfect. Yeah,
Sweet.
let's see if we can get
What
that
does
out
the
of
pumpkin
there.
by itself taste good?
It's
probably
it's
not.
an acquired taste, I'd say. I mean, I feel like there's definitely been times where I have been craving that flavor, but there's also times where I just really would not want to eat a scoop of that.
Yeah.
But feel free if you know you love pumpkin.
I'm gonna taste it. What else do you like to use pumpkin for?
I like to roast pumpkin seeds. I think that's really yummy.
Okay. Tastes like a pureed vegetable.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Pumpkin pies are also super yummy, so.
Yes, I love pumpkin pie.
But yeah, I think this is my ultimate in terms of what I like to do with pumpkin. But next we're going to put an egg in here. So I like to crack it just like into something first.
That's really smart. I should start doing that. I feel like I always get shell. I have to dig out the pieces of shell.
Ooh. See, that was a messy egg. But I think we're good in regards to shell. I'm gonna go ahead and discard this. Also, wash your hands. So you can go ahead and put that in there.
Nice.
And then we are going to do a whole entire tablespoon of vanilla.
Yum.
I'll go ahead and give you that so you can take
Cool.
the reins on it.
Sweet, you know I love taking the reins. All right. Oh, that's the best.
I love vanilla.
One whole
Especially Mexican vanilla.
Yes,
That's
it's
the
like,
best kind to use.
it's so good.
All right.
Oh,
So our next step is just gonna be mixing all of these ingredients together. So we're gonna go back to that handy old mixer there. So I would say that looks good. We're gonna go ahead and set this off to the side for a second because we're gonna use a separate bowl for our dry ingredients.
Cool.
All right, so we have 2.5 cups of our flour here. I guess if you just want to pour it in, I'll probably start doing some of that sifting action here. And another dry ingredient that you don't find often in cookies, I would say, but I like to add into this one is cornstarch. Mostly because I feel like the texture of the pumpkin kind of gives it a bit of a sticky kind of texture, and cornstarch just really helps hold everything together. And I believe it's in this little container. If you just want to throw that in the sifter, and I'll just get that going. We have 3 more dry ingredients. I kind of mix them all together in this little cup just to make it easier to add into here. But what's inside of this is some leavening agents, which you need when you're baking. So we have 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of baking powder in here. And we also have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is going to help offset some of the sweetness from the sugar. And overall, I think it also kind of pairs really well with the taste of pumpkin. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add that in here as well. This is pumpkin pie spice. You can make this yourself without buying a pre-made pumpkin pie spice. I believe it's cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and cloves that are in here. Yes, and ginger. So you can make it yourself. Sometimes it's just easy to have that pre-made pumpkin pie spice though. We're gonna go ahead and add 2 teaspoons of this into our dry mixture. So this is our a 1/2 teaspoon here, so I'm just gonna do 4 of these.
It smells so good.
This smells really amazing.
Can I taste that?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
Go for it. Take a little taste. How's it tasting?
Way better than the plain pumpkin.
Really? Okay, good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Nice. All right, so I guess I'm just gonna start mixing. Would you wanna just kind of evenly start pouring this into here, just a little bit at a time, so that way we can make sure that it's all incorporated into this mixture.
Can I use the spatula?
Yeah, definitely. Oops. This is my favorite part of baking.
Me too. Cheers.
So we have now reached the last step before we start scooping these cookies out and putting those bad boys in the oven. So we're gonna add some chocolate chips.
Yes, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yes, and I opted for dark chocolate chips, baking chunks actually. I love dark chocolate. I don't know about you, but
I have never met a chocolate I didn't love. So,
okay,
yeah. Perfect.
So then I hope you love these. The recipe that I typically follow only calls for 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. I don't even know how many are in here, but when I make these, I usually just buy a bag and pour the whole thing in.
Right on.
So just gonna pour all that in.
Ooh,
would you wanna
chocolatey cookie?
Would you wanna fold them in with the spatula here?
I would love to. Okay.
We're about ready to go. This is my favorite tool because it's so easy to just scoop cookies out with a good ratio, I feel like, of cookie. Not too big, not too small of a clump of dough. So I just go ahead and scoop it in there and then just kind of press the button a couple times and there you go. Would you like to try some?
Cool.
So this recipe does recommend that you freeze the cookies for a little bit. This just helps them retain their shape a little bit better when they're baking. It says you can freeze it anywhere from 15 minutes up to overnight. We're probably just gonna do a quick freeze here, just pop them in for about 15 minutes or so. So if you wanna go ahead, we can take this tray into the freezer.
Perfect.
So So our second tray is ready to go. So we're just gonna go ahead and start chilling these, and then we're gonna get into some science, so.
Cool, I'm gonna go eat this cookie dough.
So there is a bit of science involved with baking, and it's probably things that people don't typically think about happening when they're just making some cookies. So the first step that is sort of a physical reaction that's happening within these cookies is the dough begins to spread because either the water or other liquids that are in the dough, once it reaches a boiling point, so 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius, that is going to start releasing steam and water vapor. So that is going to cause the dough to start to spread because it's going to expand because molecules expand when they are heated up. And something that also happens during this process of the water turning into vapor is baking soda and baking powder start to create carbon dioxide gas.
Oh.
So there is carbon dioxide gas that is released as well, which is also causing the dough to begin to spread. So that's why when you're cooking, the first thing that you notice is the cookies kind of spreading outward and getting a bit bigger, and that's going to create the diameter of the cookie. So we do need something in order to stop that process and stop it from expanding indefinitely. And what that is the proteins and the starches. So the proteins from the egg and the starches from the flour, or in our case, flour and cornstarch, those start to set. And that is what helps stop the water vapor and carbon dioxide gas from continuing to expand, and it helps set the diameter of the cookie. However, when this is happening, this is also when the cookie starts to rise. That's when those leavening agents come into play. They also help the cookie start to rise with that release of carbon dioxide gas as well. So there are two chemical reactions that happen when you are baking. And one of them, which I didn't even realize was a chemical reaction, is caramelization. So caramelization of the sugars, when the sugars start to break down, they get darker, they get richer, they kind of turn into a liquid. And this is actually a chemical reaction that is happening that's also going to bring out a lot of that flavor in your cookie. So once those sugars start to caramelize, you start to get some of that sugary, sweet, aromatic tastes in there. But you also want to have that salt to help offset that sweetness of the sugar and the caramelization. And the second chemical reaction that happens is something called a Maillard reaction. And a Maillard reaction is when proteins in the flour, such as gluten, and the egg begin to brown as well. So they kind of go through a similar process of caramelization where they also turn into sort of a liquidy kind of brown goop. But this also helps add flavor and texture to the cookies. And it also is what helps the cookie to begin to brown when you're baking it. So I had no idea that all of this was involved in baking. I didn't even know that any chemical reactions were taking place, but it's really cool to kind of have that knowledge on what's actually happening. So I think our cookies are sufficiently chilled, so we're gonna go ahead and grab those and then pop them in the oven. And one important thing to note is our oven is at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, so you wanna make sure that you start preheating that oven, preferably when you are putting your cookies in the freezer to chill. We're gonna go ahead and grab those and start the baking. Gonna go ahead and start a 10-minute timer here. It suggests to bake it for 10 to 12 minutes. Typically, I like a chewy, softer cookie, so sometimes I like to take it out when you think that it's a bit underbaked, but
yeah, and then they like finish baking.
Yeah. All right, we have our cookies here. The proteins have set, the starches have set, the dough is spread, the sugar is caramelized, and our cookies are ready to indulge in.
They smell so good.
Yeah, they do smell pretty delicious. I'm probably gonna take one from over here.
Yes.
So they're still a little warm. We had to take them off the hot trays to stop them from continuing to bake, but
cheers.
Cheers, maybe get that, what is it, cross section? Oh yeah.
Oh, they're so gooey.
Well, Well, thanks so much for joining me on this journey, helping me create these amazing cookies.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We got to make something yummy and I learned so many new things.
Yes. Bye.